Hey everyone. Welcome to Top Tech News. This is your news channel for getting updated with the latest tech news headlines and their impact on business and our lives. To read the full news article for any of the news that we cover, simply click on its link given below in the description. To stay updated, show us some love and hit the subscribe button below and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. This way you would be informed whenever we upload a new video. Hi, my name is Dee and I am your host for today. Today's top headlines are: Apple unveils a redesigned MacBook Pro featuring M1 Pro and M1 Max. Apple M1 Max inside the new MacBook Pro 16-inch tested, blows past previous models. Oppo K9s goes official with Snapdragon 778G, 6.59 inches 120Hz LCD. Google says Pixel 6 series isn't heading to India over global supply issues. Elon Musk's Boring Company gets green light for Las Vegas tunnel system. Let's get started. Apple unveils a redesigned MacBook Pro featuring M1 Pro and M1 Max. Apple recently launched the new redesigned MacBook Pro that promises extreme performance, the return of many highly requested features and ports, and is available in both 14 and 16-inch sizes. Apple has brought the tech behind the standalone Magic Keyboard to the MacBook Pro and has removed the much-maligned Touch Bar. The keyboard is set in a double anodized black well, which Apple says elegantly highlights the backlit glyphs on the keys, and features a full-height function row. The new keyboard is complemented by the Force Touch trackpad that Apple says is perfect for Pro applications. Speaking of Pro workflows, the company has added ports back to the computer: an HDMI port, 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, an SD card slot, a headphone jack that supports high-impedance headphones, and MagSafe 3 charging, but it also still supports charging via Thunderbolt. The new MacBook Pro also supports fast charge and can charge to 50% capacity in 30 minutes. The two new MacBook Pros can support 3 Pro Display XDRs and a 4K TV all at once, all without a single adapter. For wireless connectivity, MacBook Pro also features Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.0. The display has also been reimagined. The border is 24% thinner on the sides and 60% thinner at the top. The menu bar moves up to the top of the display and hides parts of the menu bar behind the camera module, which allows for more overall usable screen space. Speaking of the camera, it features a wider f2.0 aperture and captures video in 1080p. The 16-inch model has a 16.2-inch display in nearly the same size enclosure as before with 7.7 million pixels, which is the most ever in a Mac notebook. The 14.2-inch model has 5.9 million pixels, which is more than the previous generation's 16-inch MacBook Pro. Both support 1 billion colors. The display can also refresh up to 120 Hz and features ProMotion, the same tech in the new iPhone 13 Pro, which dynamically changes refresh rate to preserve battery life, but scales up when needed. Video editors can still pick a standard refresh rate when it needs to be locked. It is a liquid Retina XDR display inspired by the Pro Display XDR and uses mini LED tech that is used in the iPad Pro. The backlight features thousands of mini LEDs arranged in individually controlled local dimming zones and features up to 1000 nits of sustained brightness and 1600 nits of peak brightness. That level of brightness allows for deeper blacks and stronger highlights that make for a better display of HDR content. Both versions of the laptop are available to be configured with either the M1 Pro or M1 Max chip, which are both much faster than the previous Intel versions of the MacBook Pro and should also be more performant than the original M1 chip. MacBook Pro has up to 64 GB of unified memory, which Apple says is significantly higher than any other competitor. In its presentation, Apple specifically compares the new chip to the previous generation Intel MacBook devices, whose performance gains were already outpaced by the current M1 chip. How it performs compared to the M1 is something that will need to be tested. Not only are these computers fast, but they are also extremely power efficient. Apple says that the enclosure is precisely machined around an advanced thermal system that can move 50% more air than the previous generation, even at lower fan speed, which enables phenomenal sustained performance while staying cool and quiet. Apple also says that the fans won't have to turn on for most tasks users perform on it. Apple says that battery life is up to twice as long in Lightroom Classic, and the 14-inch model delivers up to 17 hours of video playback, while the 16-inch version can last for up to 21 hours. Unlike other Pro notebooks that lose performance when they are not plugged in, Apple says that the MacBook Pro delivers the same level of performance whether it is plugged in or using the battery. The 14-inch model starts at $1,999 while the 16-inch model starts at $2,499 and is available in either silver or space gray. Apple M1 Max inside the new MacBook Pro 16-inch tested, blows past previous models. Well, this was expected. A test on a MacBook Pro 16 with an Apple M1 Max chipset was run and it showed just how fast these Macs are. The laptop in question was configured with 32GB of RAM and ran Mac OS 12.4. A quick peek at a MacBook Pro with an Intel Core i9-9880H, the latest MacBook available in a 16 form factor, shows a massive gain in single-threaded CPU performance and close to double the multi-threaded performance. Admittedly, Apple didn't put a lot of effort to keep up with Intel's latest chips. So let's look at the MacBook Pro 13 with the original M1 chipset running Mac OS 12.0. As expected, the single-threaded speed is essentially identical, both use the large core from the Apple A14 chipset. The difference in multi-threaded workloads is huge though. The M1 has an 8-core CPU while both the M1 Max and M1 Pro have a 10-core CPU. That doesn't tell the whole story though, as the M1 has a 4+4 CPU configuration, which means big and efficient cores, while the M1 Max has an 8+2 configuration. This means that while the total core count went up only by 2, the big core count doubled. And the scores show it. It is pretty clear that the new MacBook Pros are some of the fastest laptops that money can buy. Apple, while didn't announce a new Mac Mini or an iMac, the M1 Pro and M1 Max chipsets will be quite impressive as desktop chips someday. Oppo K9s goes official with Snapdragon 778G, 6.59 inches 120Hz LCD. The Oppo K9s has arrived in China at least. The S phone is a Snapdragon 778G powered alternative to the K9 Pro that was unveiled last month and something of an upgrade over the original K9. The K9s is bigger than both with its 6.59 display. Unlike the other two, this is an IPS LCD instead of AMOLED. It has 120Hz refresh rate matching the Pro and 240Hz touch sampling rate, 1080p plus resolution and Panda glass protection. No HDR support, though it does cover 100% of the DCI-P3 color space and 96% of NTSC. The panel's brightness peaks at 600 nits. The move to LCD necessitated that the fingerprint reader moves to the side of the phone. The 16MP selfie camera is mostly the same as on the Pro, save for the brighter aperture of f2.0. The rear camera, meanwhile, is essentially the same as before. It starts with a 64MP main camera with a 26mm f1.7 lens. This one can record 4K video at 30fps with electronic stabilization. Next up is the 120° ultra-wide-angle camera and, finally, a 2MP macro camera. The larger display on the K9s also helped Oppo fit a larger battery, 5000 mAh, up from 4500 mAh on the Pro. It doesn't charge as fast as on previous models, though at 30 watts it is no slouch either. A 1 to 100% charge takes 59 minutes. Charging is done over a USB-C 2.0 port. There is a 3.5mm headphone jack next to it as well. Wireless connectivity includes 5G and Wi-Fi 6A, plus Bluetooth 5.2 with APS HD, LDAC and LHDC codecs. There are two configurations available. The first is 6GB of RAM and 128GB storage. The other option gets 8GB of RAM. There is a microSD slot for more storage and virtual RAM for up to 5GB more. The chipset is kept cool by a 0.15mm sheet of graphite that helps carry more heat to the vapor chamber. Out of the box, the phone runs ColorOS 11.2 based on Android 11. The Oppo K9s is available in Obsidian Warrior, Neon Silver Sea and Magic Purple Quicksand colors. The retail package includes a charger, cable and a protective case. The phone is already available in China. There's no word on global availability yet. Google says Pixel 6 series isn't heading to India over global supply issues. The Pixel 6 is only available in a limited number of regions, and apparently, that won't be changing anytime soon. Google has confirmed that, at least for now, it has no plans to bring Pixel 6 to India. It confirmed that the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro wouldn't be officially sold in India, citing a variety of reasons including global demand supply issues, obviously referencing the chip shortage that is affecting the entire electronics industry with a growing impact on smartphones. This doesn't come as much of a surprise, as India hasn't officially had most of the recent Pixels. The Pixel 4, 5, and 4a 5G were not sold in India, though the Pixel 4a did reach the region, hinting that price may have been a part of Google's decision. That said, Google's statement doesn't shut the door on future Pixel phones officially being sold in India. Elon Musk's Boring Company gets green light for Las Vegas tunnel system. Elon Musk's Boring Company won approval from local officials to move forward with building a network of vehicle tunnels underneath Las Vegas. Dubbed the Vegas Loop, the system will allow passengers to hitch rides in Teslas to and from places like the hotel casinos on the Las Vegas Strip, the city's new football stadium, the Las Vegas Convention Center, and McCarran International Airport. The Boring Company already operates a small version of this Tesla's in-tunnel system underneath the Las Vegas Convention Center, which opened earlier this year and involves two 0.8-mile tunnels. But Musk's startup proposed a massive citywide expansion in December 2020 that largely lines up with what Clark County officials approved. The system that was approved involves 29 miles of tunnels and 51 stations. Clark County says as many as 57,000 passengers will be able to travel through it per hour and that no taxpayer money will be spent to build it. The Boring Company previously said that it would foot the bill for building the main tunnels but planned to ask hotel casinos or other businesses that want a station to pay for those construction costs. Each one of those stops has to go through its own permitting process. The Boring Company has said the plan is to ultimately use Teslas that can drive themselves, but Musk's other company has not yet finished creating software capable of performing that feat. So, currently, the Teslas that run under the convention center have human drivers. The Boring Company has previously quoted price estimates for the Vegas Loop system that sit somewhere between that of most public transit and the cost of a taxi or ride-hailing service. It expects a 5-mile trip from the airport to the convention center to take about 5 minutes and cost $10, and a 3.6-mile ride from the convention center to the football stadium to take 4 minutes and cost $6. Well, that's about it for today. Hope you found it helpful. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. And do show us some love by clicking on the thumbs up button. Have a wonderful day everyone, and we will be back again soon.